Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are now going on with our discussion of the basic things that a person has to appreciate before they start learning Halacha. As I mentioned before, learning Halacha, Jewish law, if one doesn't approach it with the proper understanding, then it can be a list of do's and don'ts, which it is. If you pick up a code of Jewish law, it's a list of do's and don'ts. But there's a world that is beyond those do's and don'ts. The do's and don'ts are the kind of the tip of the iceberg, which underneath the water is this deep whole worldview and assumptions that the do's and don'ts are the most external expression of. So what we're trying to do now is go underwater and see what's underneath that tip of the iceberg. Everybody with me? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the first thing we discussed last time is the need for Torah. The need for Torah, what Torah is. And you remember how we discussed the idea that Hashem is so beyond, he is so transcendent, that there's actually no way for us to conceive of Hashem in any way. We are finite, and Hashem is infinite. Hashem is transcendent. Hashem is beyond, and we're limited, dimensional, right? How does one bridge the gap between the infinite and the finite? Now, also we need to appreciate, as we saw in that Midrashic teaching that we saw from the Koznitzer Maggid, that Hashem created this world in order that there should be a relationship between us and Hashem. I mean, if Hashem didn't care, he just sort of created us for fun, then he walked away and went golfing. So it would matter that there's no bridge between the infinite and the finite. But because Hashem created us, that there should be a relationship between humanity and Hashem. So therefore, some bridge the gap between his infinity and our being finite. So what did Hashem do? Hashem took his infinite, unknowable self, and he put it into a form that we could access. Mm-hmm. And what is that form that we can access? It's Torah. Torah. God took his otherwise unknowable and his otherwise unknowable intellect, and he put it into a form that we could understand. And then we gave the example last time of if Albert Einstein were to give a class here, right? So the only person who would understand it would be Nish, right? But for the rest of us, it would be hard. And Schiffer also. Sorry for everybody else, but I'm in your company too. Oh, no. So so we'd be in trouble. So what Einstein could do is take it and not explain it the same way he understands it, not explain it the way it is in his own brain, but kind of separate itself from his own brain and put it into a form that could be accessible. You could even say, like they say in American English, dumb it down. They have this expression. You ever heard that expression before? Dumb it down. Can you imagine what that means? Yes. Dumb it down. Dumb it down. Dumb. Like dumb means like. Yeah, like this, right? Like dumb it down, right? So I don't, it's a very pejorative expression, but kind of the Torah is kind of the dumbing down in a way of God's otherwise infinite and unknowable wisdom and will. Of course, the amazing thing about the Torah is that you dumb something down, which is a very unfortunate phrase, but I just use that in order to convey a certain idea. Maybe to a certain extent, the dumbed down version of it has now become so dumbed down, it doesn't have any connection with the original idea. Torah. The magic of Torah is that the Torah is the accessible wisdom and will of God, but in a way, it's the dumbed down version, but in a way which maintains its connection to the infinite unknowable source of Torah. So it's an amazing bridge. With Torah, we can bridge the gap between our being finite and the infinite Hashem. Through Torah, we can access it, we can learn it, we can talk about it, we can think about it. It's amazing. We can even do it, which we'll talk more about. Okay, now we're going to do a little exercise. And I hope there's always this great fear I have. It's greater than, it's cheaper than psychotherapy. Can I share my fears with you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You know what? My microphone is actually in the wrong. Uh-oh, it's only a 50-minute session too. Okay, my microphone is facing the wrong way. So nothing I just said for the past 10 minutes is being recorded, but everything you said was recorded, which is probably just fine. Okay. So in any case, here's my fear. You know, I think it's very important when we learn Torah to learn Torah. That is not just for me or anybody else to just kind of like talk, tell you what I think or what I'm claiming Judaism says, right? Maybe I'm making it up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important when we learn Torah to learn Torah. Like, where does it say that? That all the ideas that we discuss are flowing organically from all of these Torah books that we have around us. Okay? Of course, that makes it a little bit more difficult. It's easier just to get up and talk, but it's less authentic and it could even be a distortion. But if we root it in Torah texts, it's going to be more authentic. The problem is those Torah texts are sometimes a little complicated, oftentimes a little complicated. They're written in a different language, right? They were written originally in Dutch, of course. And so it can be very confusing. So the risk of confusion on the one hand versus the benefit of authenticity, right? That's a struggle. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of authenticity, but I'm afraid that it's going to risk making things more confusing. But we're going to do our best because we have everybody's a certified genius. You know, we have a special meter. You know, somebody walk through like at the airport, it checks you like, you know, any metal objects says a genius meter. You can't even get in here. There's like, you get zapped. You ever notice that? Some people never make it into the room. Okay, so if you're here, you passed. Okay, so there's a blessing that we say every morning, men and women alike, men and women alike, and that is the blessing for the study of Torah. Study of Torah. I don't know if some of you may not be familiar with this yet, but Bezrat Hashem, you will be as we go on. But I have it written here on the text. If you take a look at the second page here, the back side of the first page, right, where it says Siddur prayer book. Everybody see that? Yeah. That's just, I copied it out of a Siddur, out of a prayer book. And this is men and women supposed to say this every morning. So if you haven't said it yet, you should start saying it in the morning before you learn Torah. Okay. As a matter of fact, we could say it right now. Yes. You want to say it right now? Yes. So should we say it in Hebrew? Say it in Hebrew. Now the Hebrew got a little bit cut off here on the right. You see the text got cut off. So let's say the first blessing part. We'll say it together. Do you see where it got cut off? The second line on the bottom. So that's just the word vitzivanu, and he commanded us. Okay, so let's say it out. It's slow. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav vitzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah, to be involved in the words of Torah. Blessed are you, God, sovereign of the universe, who has made us holy through his commandments and commanded us to be involved in the words of Torah. Okay, so that's a blessing we say every morning. There's more to it than that, but just for today, make it a little bit shorter. So I'm going to read it in English, the whole blessing, and then we're going to learn all about it. And by learning about this blessing, we're going to really understand what Torah is, lives for the worse. No, not for the worse. Hopefully for the better. Okay? Hannah, how you doing over there? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Halacha.
Okay, good. I just noticed you're a little spaced out there. So, but spaced out good.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a look at this blessing. Blessed are you, Lord our God, just we read, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with thy commandments, commanded us to study the Torah. Then it goes on. Lord our God, make the words of thy Torah, you can even read it with me, pleasant in our mouth and in the mouth of thy people, the house of Israel, so that we and our descendants and the descendants of thy people, the house of Israel, may all know thy name and study the Torah for its own sake. Blessed art you, O Lord, who teaches the Torah to thy people, Israel. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us thy Torah. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the Torah. Okay, and what follows after that is just an opportunity, since we just made a blessing over learning Torah.
Mhm.
Whenever we make a blessing before doing something, what should we do after making the blessing?
Do it.
Do it. Like in Nike commercials, just do it, right? So after that is there's a selection of passages of learning Torah. So the first passage is a book from the selection from the book of Numbers, Bamidbar, from the Torah itself. And then there's a selection from the book called the Mishnah, and then a little selection from the book called the Talmud. Okay, so that's all there in order to have at least a little bit of experience learning Torah after we make that blessing. So far, so good? Okay. So now I want to understand that in depth. Everybody ready? Let's go to the first page. So we're about to study the Talmud now. We're going to study the Talmud. And the Talmud wants to know, what's the source of the commandment to make this blessing? So let's read it. Minayin levirkat Torah lefaneha min Torah. From where do we know in the Torah we're supposed to make a blessing before studying Torah? Where does it say in the Torah to do that? You know, does anybody know by any chance the Torah where it says to make some type of blessing? There's one place in the Torah that's a real clear example where the Torah says you should make a blessing. Wow, Leah, that was amazing. Okay, that was. He's humble.
Where?
What's that? Yeah, when you eat, right? When you eat,
yeah,
and then you feel full. So the Torah says you shall eat and feel full. You should bless the Lord your God.
Where was that to be found?
Yes, so that's in the Torah itself. Right? Oh, you want to know chapter and verse?
Well, the book.
Oh, wow.
Is it in Bereshit?
Wow, you know what? I'll have to look it up chapter verse for you. It's not hard to find. As a matter of fact, do you have a Siddur on you? Anybody have a prayer book?
Maybe it is short. I think it might be short.
We don't have to guess. Yeah, so I'll tell you right now. Okay. Okay, so it's in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10. Yeah. So Devarim, look at Devarim, chapter 8, verse 10.
But it's not referencing somewhere else, leaving you know how that in the last book it talks about like it sometimes
references something. No, apparently, yeah, this is that verse, the famous verse of the you should eat v'savata and be full, uveirachta Hashem Elokecha, and you should bless the Lord your God over the good land that He gives you.
The first time we see it is when Abraham met the three angels. And he says, "Don't thank me, thank Hashem."
Yeah, so that actually doesn't appear in the Torah, that story. That's a midrash, right? That doesn't appear in the Torah, right? So that can always be confusing. Yeah, chapter 8, verse 10. Chapter 8, verse 10. Okay, so just like that's an example where the Torah, the idea of blessing God, right? that's an idea which the Torah itself has in it. We just saw an example of it. Now, let's just take this one step further. You know, it sounds kind of weird to bless God. You know, sometimes we bless each other. Like, how would we bless each other? Like, I don't know, if Leah wanted to bless Hannah, what would you say to Hannah?
That Hashem may bless you with a day full of simcha.
Okay, beautiful. Like usually, it's we say it's a wish or a prayer almost that somebody should experience abundance, right? Abundance and joy. That was the example that Leah gave, right? Okay. And Deb, I bless Bar. I'm sorry that she should have her bank account should go up 1,000 times.
Amen.
Amen. There we go. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Can we? But then I have to. Okay. But the money thing, it's difficult to ask for because I don't know.
Don't be shy. Yeah, don't be shy. Money's not. If you use it for the right purpose, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
You can build a building for Beirut because you'd be so wealthy. You call it the Bar Center for Torah Study.
Call it Bar's Bar.
Bar, that's good too. We'll have an open bar here for between class to get you in the mood. Okay? So in any case, but it's kind of weird to bless God. Oh God, I wish upon you a happy day and may your bank account. What? You know what I mean? That's a little harder to figure out. What does it mean to bless God? So what does it mean when we bless
You're
God?
not blessing him, you're acknowledging that he brings all the blessings.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so we bless God's a little different than blessing Bar, right? Or Kana, right? We bless Hashem, we're recognizing that Hashem is the source of abundance. Baruch atah, blessed are you, meaning you're the source of blessing. Whereas when we say to Bar, you know, may you be blessed, we're saying may you be the object of blessings, all kinds of blessings should just pour out on top of you, okay? When we bless God, we're saying that God is the source of blessing, source of abundance, okay? So we just saw in the prayer book that there is an idea that we bless God for this mitzvah of learning Torah. We just saw the text of it, right? So the Talmud wants to know, is there some place in the Torah that it tells us to do that? Just like it tells us to bless God after eating. Mm-hmm. Is there some place in the Torah that says, bless God before learning Torah? Now, Leah, yes, I could tell her thinking cap is on there and her brain is like searching through all of Tanakh using her internal database there. And so you can stop right now. I'll press the pause button or whatever on your computer there because you won't find it. Okay. Because watch this. So the Talmud is actually give an answer, but it's not what you'd expect at all. Okay? So the Talmud says, right, from where do we know in the Torah itself there's blessing before learning Torah? Shneimar, as it says in the Torah, and this is a verse, again, from Devarim, from the book of Deuteronomy. When I call on the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. That's the verse. Ki Shem Hashem Ekra. I just translate a little bit different than the English there.
Yeah.
We're still in the first source. Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, Hawagol Elokeinu. When I call the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. That's the verse. Now, it's always good to see the verse in context, because sometimes when the Talmud will quote a verse, a pasuk, everybody knows that word pasuk, a verse. When the Talmud quotes a pasuk, sometimes you have to see the greater context. Let's just see the whole greater context here. Remember, the whole book is a big speech before he dies. Give ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My teaching shall drop as the rain, and my speech shall distill as the dew. Just like the tender rain upon the tender herb, the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. And then it uses our verse. When I proclaim the name of God, ascribe greatness to our God. Right? When I proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. That's the verse in context.
So what is Deuteronomy 32 talking about?
Yeah, so this it's enough. Just this. It's Moshe's verbal speech. That's the whole book of Deuteronomy, basically. Okay, so Now, this is confusing. I am having a spiritual crisis right now. Because what would I have liked to have found? Like when the Talmud says, where in the Torah does it say to make a blessing before learning Torah? What would I have liked to have found in the Torah? A verse that says something like, just make it up. Niche.
Whenever you study Torah, you have to make a blessing.
Thank you. That was perfect. That was amazing. I think we should make every verse that Niche will compose. And right, exactly. That's exactly what I'd like to find. Just like if the sages said, from where in the Torah do we know there's a blessing after eating a meal? As it says, you should eat, be satisfied, and bless the Lord your God. That's what I would like to have found here. But that is not the verse which is being quoted. There is no verse like that. Instead, it says, when I proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. Now, I don't know how those words mean before learning Torah, make a blessing. Does everybody appreciate my spiritual crisis?
Yes,
Shifra, do you feel for me?
So much.
Okay, thank you. I need empathy. Okay, good.
All here.
Okay, great. Baruch Hashem. Well, I'm glad I came today. I feel better already. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is explain this passage in the Talmud. Well, we're going to look at a commentary written on the Torah, or actually on the passage in the Talmud. See number 5 down there? It says Aruch HaShulchan. Okay, that's actually a modern rabbi almost. He died in 1908. Yeah, that's almost modern.
Yeah.
Anything after the 16th century is modern as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so he tries to explain. Right, what did the verse say that the Talmud said that's a hint at the idea that we're supposed to make a blessing before learning Torah? It said, when I proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. So he says the following, when I proclaim the name of the Lord, that's what the verse says. Ascribe greatness to our God. So he says, you know what we have to first understand? For the Torah is the name of the Lord. Because that's what it says. When I proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. By the way, how do we describe greatness to God? How do we associate greatness to God? By making a blessing. That's what it means saying, Baruch Atah Hashem. You are the source of all blessing. You are the source of all goodness. You're the source of all abundance. Right? That's clearly ascribing greatness to God. But what's the activity which is associated with describing God's greatness? It's proclaiming God's name. So the Aruch HaShulchan says, oh, you know what that means? That's a code. It's a code. It's a code. And we're going to decrypt. We're going to figure out the code. What's the code? That the name of God is another way of saying Torah. Another way of saying Torah. Now, the Aruch HaShulchan, even though he died in 1908, which is not so long ago, and remember we talked about yesterday that if you make up something, then you're in big trouble. It's probably not Torah. Everything we say in Torah is translating, right? We're saying it in a different way so that we can hear it, but the truth goes back to the Torah, back to Sinai. So when the Aruch HaShulchan says that the name of Hashem, that's really a phrase for Torah. So he's saying that he died in 1908, but it really goes, the Zohar says the same. The Zohar goes back 2,000 years. Look what the Zohar says. That's source number 6. You know, that's the great work of Kabbalah, of Jewish mysticism. The entire Torah is the holy name. There is no word in the Torah which does not include the holy name. The entire Torah is God's name. That's the source of this idea. Torah is God's name. Torah is God's name. So I want to try to figure out what could that possibly mean to say that the Torah is God's name. Whoa, 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 whoa. Torah is God's name. What does a name do?
Distinguishes you.
Good. It's distinguishes us. It makes it's a way we can sort of represent ourselves. Like instead of seeing, seven blobs in this room. We're not just blobs, but there's Yeshayahu, and there's Bar, and there's Khan, and there's Shifra, and there's Lish, and there's Leah, and there's Delora, and there's Fred, and Esther. Okay, over here. So so it's a way that it's a kind of an identity. It's an identity. Noticed what difference it makes when somebody calls your name, when someone refers to you by name. Like I'm kind of feeling good that I'm getting to the point where, yeah, I know your names. It makes a big difference to say, Hannah, how you doing?
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't it? If I were to say, you over there, the second from the right, you know, like, yeah. So that makes a big difference. So it's a way of kind of connecting. It's a way of acknowledging and connecting the name. Okay.
Yeah, we learned that
But-
in the medical field. You look at a person's name and you address them by their name.
Beautiful. It makes the interactions, it makes it personal. It makes it meaningful. Now I'm going to take this one step further. You ready for this? This is a scary idea, what I'm about to say. Is that like completely turned off? It can't go on like
We'll
low.
put it on and off.
Oh, it doesn't have like a low fan thing?
You could just change the temperature.
Really?
Not the.
Weird. Okay. So if any part starts to suffocate, we'll turn it back on. Okay. Now, I think, Bar, you need to have like another place to sit.
You are very attached to it.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually good for me. Because then I can remember whoever sits there, I don't care what it is, her name is Bar. Okay. In any case, I want to share with you a very strange passage in the Torah. It's the first marriage in the Torah, right? Adam and Eve, right? It's really strange there. You may have talked about it in other contexts, but a very famous verse where God looks at Adam and he says, it's not good for a person to be alone. Right? And so what do you think God has in mind when he says that? What's he going to do?
It needs to be another person.
Yeah. It's like matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Right? He's going to go find a nice spouse for Adam. That's not what happens. He eventually does. By the way, where does he find a nice lady for himself? From himself. Yeah, he has to do a little surgery, okay? But the weird thing is, that should have been the very next passage. It should have been, oh my gosh, look how sad that guy looks. Oh man, this is breaking my heart, right? And then it should have been, okay, this won't hurt too much. Puts him under general anesthesia, rips out his rib, whatever it is, right? Okay, and voila. And then Adam says, oh, wow, thank you, Hashem. And that was like the first and last day of their marriage. It kind of went downhill from there. They kind of had a fight over dietary rules, if you remember that part. You know, whatever. So in any case, that's not actually what happens. Anybody remember? I don't know if you remember. There's like a story that's in between God saying, man, it's not good for a person to be alone, and God saying, okay, I better make someone for you to have as a partner. There's something in between.
His heavenly host.
So there's actually there's something in the middle. There's something in the middle. It seems to be completely irrelevant. God says, oh, wait a second. I'm kind of making this a little bit facetious, but God says, oh, I forgot to do something. I can't to make a spouse for Adam because I forgot. I was on my to-do list. I forgot something. I forgot to name the animals. That's what it said in the Torah.
Okay.
So God brings every animal to Adam, and Adam names the animals. And then God says, oh, okay, got that off my to-do list for today. Oh, yeah, where was I? Yeah, I'm supposed to find you a helpmate. Okay, this won't hurt too much. Gives him a shot, puts him asleep, takes out the rib, makes a person. Okay. It's very strange about that middle story. Did everybody appreciate that?
No, because there's two of every animal.
Why? So
There's
why?
male and
I mean,
female- there has to be male and female of every animal.
so
So therefore, then he would become male and female.
So he
why
was
did we need that
trying to say
naming
unique,
part in there?
Uh,
to
What's
give
the
them a
naming?
uniqueness.
What's that have to do with Adam getting
differentiate
married?
The animals from the human being.
Okay, so that's the right direction. I'd like to share with you how our sages explain that. So it's something like this, and it makes a lot of sense. And you may be able to identify with this. It's not like a story that's in between that doesn't belong there. It exactly belongs there. Because what does Adam need? He needs a partner in life. So then Hashem brings all the animals one by one. And what does Hashem ask Adam to do?
Give him a name.
Give a name. What did we just say a name is? It's an expression of our
Uniqueness.
uniqueness. It's who we are. So you know what that's really saying? When Adam called the animals a name, what's he really doing? Defining. Very good. He's defining that animal. So you know what that is? Like, to put it in kind of modern context. You ever go to a hotel in Jerusalem in the lobby and see what goes on there with a lot of shidduchim?
Yeah,
I'd really like to.
me too.
What's she doing?
Yeah. So in the in some parts of the Orthodox world, people don't just meet somebody to get married to. It's actually organized, and usually or often by the parents. So like the parents, there are people who do it for a living, like matchmaker, make me a match, right? There are people who it's not just in Fiddler on the Roof. It really exists. You go to a matchmaker and you say, you know, I've got the most wonderful son in the whole world, or the most wonderful daughter. And do you have anybody on your database that might be good enough for him or her? And so they say, you know, there's this nice boy down the street or girl down the street, whatever. And we, maybe they should meet. Great. So, if you go to Jerusalem to any nice hotel, you'll see in the lobby, there's these very nice looking, dressed up, and, the guy's all dressed up and the girl's all dressed up, and they have a cup of tea.
That's the shidduchim.
Yeah. And they're meeting for the first time, or maybe it's the second, right? And they're going to try to figure out very quickly whether they should get married, which is a lot of pressure. Oh my gosh, can you imagine doing that? Whoa, my brain would melt. So that must be a tremendous amount of pressure. In any case, you know what Adam was doing when God brought him all those animals? He was going shidduch dates in the Plaza Hotel in Jerusalem with them. So he's sitting there, and a giraffe walked in. That was the first date. And Adam, they sit down for a cup of tea, Adam and a giraffe. And Adam looks at the giraffe and says, giraffe. Now, that word giraffe captures the essence of the giraffe. So Adam goes back to God and says, too tall. Not going to work. You should see the way she had to bend down to drink the tea. Oh my gosh, I felt bad for her. What a stiff neck. Imagine drinking that cup of tea or giraffe.
You really think that he was considering them as
For sure.
partners?
Well, yeah. Okay. So so Adam goes back to God and says, this is not going to work. And so don't worry. Next night, sitting in the lobby, and a lion walks in.
Wow.
Okay, lioness, of course. And they have a cup of tea. Okay. This is my lioness on the phone. Just close this down. Sorry, I always remember to do this.
You are the monkey and you are Adam.
Okay. So Adam goes, he called, okay, lion. Goes back to God, God says, what'd you think? I was like, maybe this is better. Very intimidating. So that wasn't going to work out too well. Okay. So what has Adam done by the end of the process? What has he done? He's gone out with every single prospective partner in life. in the whole planet. Have you ever felt this way? I've known single people who feel this way. Like, I've met every single potential mate in this entire planet, and there's nobody. So, but you know what? There is. Okay. So, how's Adam feeling by this point?
You could be tired.
Oh, tired. I would say on the verge of utter despair. Can you imagine that?
Mm.
And then you know what God says? He says, okay, you know what? I know how you're feeling, but I've got a partner for you. This one's going to work. Now that you're really, the dawn always comes before the
darkest hours before the dawn.
Yeah, whatever the expression is, you got the idea. So he's feeling pretty gloomy right now. Goes to sleep, he wakes up, and who's sitting in front of him? Eve. And what does he say there? Hannah, are you looking at that passage right now?
No, I wasn't looking at it though.
Oh, okay, you don't have to. So he wakes up and he sees Eve, and you know what he says there?
You are the mother of all.
No, that's when she's named, right? But he says, Zotapam, this time, she is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. You know what he said? Bingo! Wow! I found her. When it says this time, Zotapam, you know what it means this time, as opposed to all those other dates he went on with the giraffe and the lioness and all that kind of stuff, right? This time, as opposed to those times, and he found his shidduch.
Well,
Yes.
Does it not mean this time meaning the other woman?
Yes, that's what I want
Yeah,
you to ask.
I'm sorry?
The other
Yeah.
woman knows for.
We're not supposed to say that name.
It doesn't look like that.
The other woman, but there was a first.
Yeah, so this I'm talking about this. Yeah, the simple reading now. Right. There's no discussion of another woman here. There's no, you don't see in the text. There's nothing like that there.
So you're
Right.
saying the naming came.
But I'm talking about what really is in the Torah. What really is in the Torah is that all the animals are brought before him. All the animals are brought before him, and he gives them names.
Yeah.
And then Eve comes before him, and he says, "Oh, this time she is bone and bone and flesh and flesh." So, right, I'm trying. When it comes to Torah, there's like 70 levels, right? Everybody's familiar with this idea. So the idea of Lilith and all this kind of Lilith and all this kind of things. So we're not talking about that, right? That's a different. I'm talking about like almost pshat, like a pretty straightforward reading of the Torah. I was hamming it up a little bit. He didn't go to the Plaza Hotel with the giraffe, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Nisha's disappointed because you like the idea.
I wanted him to marry the giraffe.
Really? Wow. Yeah, okay. We'll have to discuss that some other time. What does that say about Nish? That's amazing. We have to think about that. Why she wanted to marry the giraffe?
No, but
Are you tall?
In chapter
I never noticed.
27, it says,
You were tall.
it says,
Okay, that
"So God
explains
created
it.
man in his
Okay.
image, in the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them." So it doesn't even talk about Lilith. I mean, scum, you could look at
Yeah.
this and say,
So
there was a male and
that's another. We'll discuss that another time.
yeah, but you're using the idea of this time is the time that she's the one,
Yeah.
is saying
Look-
that the animals are not good mates for him.
Yeah,
We're just the
Wait a
chapter
second.
before.
Wait a second. Forget about the other chapter. Just look at that story. This narrative.
Okay.
That narrative.
I have a hard
Right.
time believing that he looked at animals as potential partners.
Why not? So okay.
Because it's a sore.
Oh, okay. So Hannah, you ready for this?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm ready.
I'm so glad that this bothers you. Okay. Because you know why? Hashem does this all the time to us. That we experience all kinds of dead ends in life. I'm going to become a therapist. Dead end. I'm going to become a car mechanic. Dead end.
Nothing's a dead end. It's the path to the next thing.
Ooh. Did Hashem know that becoming a car mechanic is probably not for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he say yes.
Okay.
He did. know.
Yes, Rabbi.
Hashem often. Oh,
Yes.
I'm getting to know Hannah better
I'm
now.
a motorcycle mechanic.
I need a stiff drink.
Hey, l'chaim, l'chaim.
Okay, so
Okay, yes.
a lot of times we experience frustration, and Hashem led us that frustration. You know why? So that when we get to the right thing, it completely changes our feeling about the right path. All of those dead ends and frustrations are preparations for deeply appreciating the right path. You know, there are people that you probably know sometimes, even if you look in the mirror, that, you know, like, wow, I am like so old. I'm 18 years old and I wasted 18 years of my life. Like, I did this and that and that, and I didn't even know about Torah, and I'm so frustrated, and I feel so bad about all those other things I did in my life, which were a complete waste. How come I didn't discover this sooner? You know why?
Tell me.
Because all of that stuff that we did,
Mhm.
do you know that we come to Torah, we're coming to Torah now with such incredible, beautiful richness, such depth, such appreciation. You know, the people who grew up Orthodox sometimes have no clue how beautiful it is. And it's only because of all of those shidduch dates which didn't work out, using that metaphorically. That's what God didn't really think, that Adam was going to marry a giraffe, with all due respect. You're not a giraffe. God didn't think that, right? But God was, to put it little, maybe not so nice, cynically maybe, God was playing with Adam. He's saying, Adam, like, I'm going to find you a partner, but I'm going to make you work for it. And by the time I find you that partner, you're going to appreciate her so much that even though you're going to have a major crisis with her about food, you're still going to stay married because you're going to really appreciate. And that's why when he wakes up, he says, hang on a second. When he wakes up, he says, whoa, this time she is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, right? I could never marry the giraffe, even though, like, there was something very statuesque about her, and, you know, and she also was really smart, and she listened to NPR, and, you know, whatever, like, you know, got great conversations about the news. But this time she's there's something deep, a deep affinity. Now the truth of the matter is, I don't want to get too sidetracked, and Hannah would like to, but I don't want to, because I'm really only trying to make one point, and that is, I want to more deeply understand the Torah's understanding of naming. That's why we're talking about this. Naming is a way of capturing essence. That's why Adam named the animals. It was a way of saying, okay, I really have sized up this thing called giraffe, right? The name says, wow, it's a giraffe. She's really giraffic, right?
Well, it has to be in Hebrew.
Yeah, right. So, but you get the idea. So when the Zohar says that Torah is God's name, what does it tell us about Torah? That's what the Zohar says. The Torah is God's name.
This is the essence of
The essence of Torah is somehow in that book. That's amazing.
Oh.
That book is God's name. Hashem's essence is in that book. And then when we call out that name, what are we connecting to? Hashem. Right? That's the verse. When I call out God's name, that's the Torah. Ascribe greatness to God, make a blessing. That's how that verse is being understood, as the source to make a blessing for learning Torah.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, I just want to add one element to that. The Hebrew, when it says to call out, when I proclaim or call out, the Hebrew is ekra, koreh. That verb in Hebrew, koreh, okay, so that can mean a couple of different things. It can mean to call out. What can koreh also mean? Likro, to read. Beautiful, huh? To read. So it's not just to call out, it's to read God's name. That makes a lot more sense, to learn Torah. That's what we're doing right now. You realize right now we're calling out God's name? Right now, every single person in this room is calling out God's name. We're reading Torah, we're learning Torah. Calling out God's name. God's name is on our lips right now. Okay? And that's why we make a blessing to appreciate that.
Wow.
Okay? Fine. Now I want to take this a little bit deeper, but before we do that, I want to go back to the words of the blessing itself. Remember, we looked at that. We started out today's discussion, source number 8 there. Okay, and in the middle paragraph where it said, it said, Lord our God, make the words of thy Torah pleasant. Also, that same word in Hebrew, pleasant, can mean sweet. Make it sweet. Make the words of thy Torah sweet in our mouth and in the mouth of thy people, the house of Israel. Now listen to this. Now you're really going to understand it. So that we and our descendants and descendants of thy people, the house of Israel, may all know thy name. Now we know why the sages use that word, so we can know your name. That's what Torah is, God's name. Right? Everybody got that? Okay, beautiful. Okay, I want to take this a little deeper, if you don't mind. Discuss the difference between, if you look at the very back page, the very last page here, the difference between, someone mentioned this last time, can interface with Torah. It's getting a little stuffy for me.
Yeah.
Maybe we can just turn it on again. It really doesn't have, can I see that thing over there? I don't believe that there's.
It does have
It does, but the machine doesn't.
But it doesn't actually,
Doesn't work.
Oh yeah, put it on low.
Yeah, that's good.
But whether it
Put it on high. So you can-
No, because there's two things. There's fan and temperature. So you can put on like lowest fan.
fan, this temperature, and this something else.
Yeah, whatever it is. That sounds a little bit lower, doesn't it? Does that sound quieter?
It does sound low.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Let's try that. That was amazing. It was a miracle. Okay, that's powers. She has powers. She's a mutant, ninja mutant, they call it. Okay, now, everybody ready?
Let me see my feet.
What means interface, Rabbi? Can you use another word?
Yeah,
for
to
that?
interact.
Oh, interact. Okay.
Right.
Always see that.
Okay. When we interact with Torah, there are two levels we can interact with it. We can interface with it in two levels. We can learn Torah, like we're doing now. What's another way we can interact with Torah? By
Speaking it.
speaking Torah. That's actually part of learning, right? When we're
Mitzvot.
very good. That's the other way. By performing the acts which the Torah tells us to do. So those are two ways of relating to Torah. We can learn it or we can live it. And those are not mutually exclusive. Hopefully we do both. Schiffer does both for sure. We learn it and we do it. Okay.
We could also speak it.
And speaking is part of learning.
That's not these.
That's part of learning.
Deeds and actions.
Yeah, that's a kind of very, you notice that when Jews learn Torah, they try to learn it out loud. You ever notice that? You ever go into a Beit Midrash? Well, there's sort of Beit Midrash right here. When you're learning Torah, it doesn't look like a library. It doesn't sound like a library. You know, in a library, shh, it's a library. Right. Now
Well, when we have our Chavruta, same thing.
it's loud. Right. That's what a Beit Midrash, because when we learn Torah, we learn it out loud. Okay. And there's reasons for that. So, but I want to think a little bit about the distinction between learning Torah and living Torah, even though we do both. Okay. So I'm going to teach you an idea that's found in a Hasidic Kabbalistic book called Tanya. You probably heard of Chabad or Lubavitch. Everybody's heard of them. Okay. They're everywhere, like Coca-Cola, everywhere. So this is the most fundamental classical book of Tanya, of Chabad Hasidic teaching. There says phrase a little bit, and then we'll look at a little bit inside. There are two ways that we can relate to Hashem's name, the Torah, okay, to learn it or to do it. So, and they both have strengths, but they're different. And I think, rumor has it there's some dancers around here. Okay. So imagine that you're a choreographer, the person who writes the dances. Okay. So that's an amazing thing. When you do a dance which has been choreographed, someone wrote a dance, right? Who's a famous choreographer?
Choreographed dances. What's his name?
Rudolph Nureyev, even though he was a famous dancer, but whatever.
Choreographed.
Yeah, also choreographed. When a person dances and they dance in perfect harmony with the dance as it was choreographed, that's an amazing relationship between the dancer and the designer, right? Or you could give a different example of writing music. Someone who wrote, there's some musicians here. You write a piece of music and someone plays it. Okay, so that's an amazing thing that a person is dancing or playing a musical instrument in perfect harmony with the will of the person who wrote the music or wrote the dance. Okay, as a matter of fact, you become a vehicle for the expression of the will of the person who wrote the dance or wrote the piece of music. Was that English?
Yeah,
Right? Was that good? So everybody understood that idea?
Except I'm struggling with one concept.
Yeah.
Are you interpreting or are you the vehicle?
Yeah. So let's
Yeah.
let's
with the
stick to a
vehicle.
very precise
Okay.
kind of, you're trying to exactly harmonize your movements or the way you play an instrument with the composer or
The
the
intention of
person.
the composer.
Right, exactly. So you become a kind of vehicle for the expression of their will. That's amazing. So every time you do a mitzvah, you are actually the vehicle for the expression of Hashem's will and wisdom in this world. That's amazing. Everybody got this idea? Okay. When you learn Torah, it's a little different thing. Now, when you learn Torah, you're also doing a mitzvah. So in this respect that you're fulfilling a mitzvah when you learn Torah, you're also a vehicle for Hashem's will because you're doing what Hashem wants us to do, which is learn Torah. But there's something else which is going on. That is the following. Okay. There's something amazing about the brain. If a person performs a dance, now don't get too spiritual with me for a second. I mean this like in a very simple way. When they perform the dance, at least on a superficial level, before they did the dance and after they did the dance, they're the same person. Right? It's just that they use their capacity for movement to carry out the will of the person who wrote the dance. But when you learn something, you're not the same person anymore. You're literally different. You know what's inside your brain? Something that wasn't there before. You're literally different. When you learn a new Hebrew word, you didn't know that yesterday? You're literally a different person. That piece of information is actually literally inside you. It really is. I'm not making this up. This is not a metaphor. This is true. There's some information that was out there someplace. You didn't even know about it. And then you learned something, and that piece of information which was out there is now between your ears. It's inside. Okay? As a matter of fact, you know that there are scientists who study the brain, and you know that the shape of the brain changes when you learn.
The shape.
The shape of the neurons is called neuroplasticity.
Oh,
They actually change.
Not the whole thing.
Yeah, they actually. I mean, maybe that too. But the neurons change with you. It's almost like, you know what I like to imagine, even though I don't mean this literally, but I like to have kind of a graphic way of thinking about it. Have you ever seen a snake swallow a mouse?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. You have this like snake, and then there's like this big thing, and the rest of the snake, and it sits there and kind of digests it nice and slow. Okay, so a neuron looks a lot like a snake. That's what they look like. So imagine that you learned a new word in Hebrew, or you learned a new concept in Torah. Imagine that's like a rat inside of the snake. You actually literally have something inside there. You swallowed a mouse, except it's not a mouse. Okay, and you're not a snake, but you got the idea? So when you learn Torah, you've literally put something inside of you. Now, by the way, let's go back to what we said before. What is Torah? It's Hashem. It's Hashem's name. And what is name? It's connected to essence. Essence. When we learn Torah, what have we just literally put inside of us? Hashem. And look now, let's read English over there. Look in the very bottom of the left-hand column. It's the very last page. Okay, last page and the left-hand column. It says the following. Do you see where it says codes in parentheses? The left-hand column, about a little more than halfway down, has the word codes. Everybody see that? Help your neighbors. See the word codes? Okay. He has thus comprehended, if you learn Torah, he has thus comprehended, grasped, and encompassed with his intellect the will and wisdom of the Holy One, blessed be he, whom no thought could otherwise grasp, except when they're enclosed in the laws of the Torah that have been set before us. This is a wonderful union like which there is none other, and which has no parallel anywhere in the material world, whereby complete oneness and unity from every side and angle could be obtained. What are we experiencing when we learn Torah right at this very moment? What are we experiencing? Union with Hashem. We're taking Hashem's will and wisdom, which is Hashem, God's name, and we're actually putting it into our brain right now. And that's a complete unity with Hashem right now. We are in a state of unity with Hashem. That's amazing.
Yes.
May I ask the question? Because
You certainly
I know
could.
some of us that are here, all of us are also on maybe the spiritual side, and I'll use spiritual very loosely. So when you give the dancing analogy to me, and I wonder if there is any reference. Right? There's also something also called body memory. So rather than just being a vessel,
Yeah.
we're exactly the same part of learning, and I wonder if this is why we why we also dive in. To me, you're also changing that. It's not just brain.
Yeah, I love that.
You were cut off.
That's a marvelous idea. That's a beautiful idea. So I was making kind of a stark contrast between learning and doing, just for educational purposes. What you're saying is it's not quite as polar opposite. Even when we do a mitzvah, there is a kind of inner transformation which takes place. I love that idea of body memory. That's fantastic. I just wonder
if it's
yes, no, for sure. That's beautiful, beautiful. And our sages talk about that a lot. That after the actions goes the heart, right? That a lot of times, when you talk to somebody about how beautiful Judaism is, and they'll look at it, they'll say, be very skeptical, like, I don't want to do that, or like, why do that? That's ridiculous. And sometimes you'll say, just try it, just do it. And sometimes just doing it makes a big change, because there's something about doing it, that kind of body memory. There's like an impact, this kind of relationship between action and thought. Okay, yes.
It's actually said that when a person enters Israel for the first time, it changes the soul completely. And they also say, it's in Ivrit, רק מילה עברית, אחרת אורכי אל נשמתי. One word of Ivrit changes the nishmati, and it penetrates through the veins into your soul.
Yeah.
Why is it sad?
Okay.
I read it in an article.
You said it's sad or it's sad? Oh, sorry. I thought you said it was sad.
No, not sad.
Oh, no.
Right.
I was saying that's beautiful.
So let's just summarize what we said today, and then we'll go on next week. And we're trying to appreciate, what does it mean to learn? What does it mean to learn halacha, right? So what we said was that last week we talked about the idea of Torah is God making himself accessible. Today we took that a little bit further. We talked the idea of Hashem is God's name, right? Because the name is the way we connect to essence, right? So it's kind of, name is separate, but yet not separate, right? It's a kind of extension, but an extension which flows from essence, okay? And the Torah is God's name. And when we learn Torah, we're actually internalizing literally God's otherwise inaccessible will and wisdom. We're experiencing a unity with God through the act of learning Torah, which is unique. It's unique and extremely profound. And then Dvorah mentioned at the very end, which I think is a beautiful point, just to reiterate that, not to denigrate doing mitzvot, of course. We do both. And that doing the mitzvot also, a beautiful idea, it also has an internal impact, the idea of body memory. So we'll just put that as an aside. I think that's a very important kind of caveat on this idea. And we will continue Bezrat Hashem next time.
תודה רבה רב.
בבקשה.